Listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar. We are especially excited to welcome our three panelists today and look forward to hearing from them as they share tips and insights about how to successfully run a federal Healthy Marriage Grant, and in John's case, a federal Responsible Fatherhood Grant. Before we begin, I'd like to point out a few housekeeping tips. If you experience audio difficulties during this broadcast, please write down the phone number listed here or on the link in your email about the webinar. You can then listen on the phone while viewing the broadcast on your computer. As you have questions for the presenters, write them down, and after each presentation, you can type it into the question box. We are recording this webinar, and it will be available early next week. Just go to our website, and you will find the recording for this webinar and all of our previous webinars. Before we turn the time over to our panelists, I wanted to introduce you to the Dibble Institute. Charlie Dibble, who is shown here with his wife Helen, founded the Dibble Institute. There's more information on Charlie on our website. The Dibble Institute is a national, independent, nonprofit organization dedicated to equipping all young people, regardless of sexual orientation, with the skills and knowledge they need to develop healthy romantic relationships now and for their futures. I also, before we begin, wanted to give you an update about the upcoming $150 million a year federal Healthy Marriage and Responsible Fatherhood grants. So Congress has authorized the money for the grants so that now all that we are waiting on is for the Office of Family Assistance in the Department of Health and Human Services to release the grant announcement. The initial projected release date was originally at the end of January, but it has recently been pushed out to March 6th. So we are hoping that it won't be pushed out again, but if it is, I can tell you from having worked in that office on this grant that the latest that it could come out is in July. Now, if you want to know when it does come out, you can send me an email and I will add you to my grant alert list. So, Aaron@dibbleinstitute.org. It should be on the screen.
And
So
Aaron,
without further ado,
Aaron, I'm sorry. This is Kathy with the Dibble Institute. I'm going to be here to help on the technical assistance, but I just want to say Aaron is our grant specialist when it comes to the Healthy Marriage and Responsible Fatherhood grants.
Yep. And so if you have questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. So without further ado, let me introduce you to our first panelist. Deborah Gunn is currently managing the First Things First second federally funded Healthy Marriage Grant. Over the last 9 years, they have taught healthy relationship skills to tens of thousands of teens in the Chattanooga area. So thank you for joining us today, Deborah.
Good afternoon, everyone. First Things First is a nonprofit. We're located in Hamilton County in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and we were founded in 1997. Our mission at First Things First is to strengthen families, and we do that through relationship education, through collaboration and mobilization of our community and connecting with community partners. Our executive director at First Things First is the infamous Ms. Julie Baumgardner, whom I should say our fearless leader. And in addition, at First Things First to serving teens, which is our topic today, we also have classes for married couples, couples who are in distress. We have classes for singles, engaged couples, parents, and also those who are seeking job and career advancement. Next screen, please. My focus today is going to be on the teen population that we serve, and what you'll see on the screen are the partners that we have, and I listed several of the community partners in not only our county, which is Hamilton, but also surrounding counties, where we teach a class for teens in partnership with health and wellness teachers. Our primary target in the high schools are ninth graders, and specifically we're targeting ninth graders who are taking health and wellness classes. We have a memorandum of understanding with those high schools where they allow us to come in and teach classes. So in addition to the skills that they learned from the Connections curriculum, the relationship skills they learned, of course there are those obvious benefits that are gained from having healthy relationships. And just want you guys to know this curriculum, the Connections curriculum, was so awesome, and teachers loved it so well. When I first started at First Things First and we were trying to get our foot into the schools, once teachers experienced it and began to themselves actually go through the curriculum, and they also noted the response of the students, several of the teachers began to require their students to do the, not so much required, but they incorporated the Connections curriculum as part of their requirements that they have to meet at the for the state's health education guidelines. So we thought that was really cool that the teachers really liked the program that so well that it became a part of their curriculum. We also partner with ROTC and some consumer science teachers as well. Next screen, please. These partners are partners that we work with when school is out, so maybe during summer or a spring break or a fall break. These are agencies where we go in and we use our First Things First educators to teach the curriculum. Next screen, please. And Adventures in Dating. So one of the things that we realize to attract teens to want to go to a class when we do something outside of the schools, we wanted to not just have a class, but something that kids could see that was fun and exciting. So we developed a class and called it Adventures in Dating. And not only were we targeting ninth graders with Adventures in Dating, we were also targeting upper grades. So we offered these classes outside of the school setting, and we use the Connections curriculum as the basis for these classes. This is an experiential learning opportunity for kids, and they get an opportunity to learn lots of skills. In addition to the relationship education skills, they get to learn other skills like team building, trust, communication, of course, is a great way, an experiential way to open a conversation about communication, the listening skills that they learn. And again, we also work with a lot of inner city kids who really don't have an opportunity to get outside of the city often. So this is a great opportunity for them to also be exposed to a different environment. Next slide, please. In Adventures in Dating, what we also noticed that when kids had an opportunity to not only just learn new skills and to try something new, we noticed how they gained confidence and a willingness to learn new skills because they learned how to push themselves a little bit to not only try new things, but then it made them more open to learning and practicing new skills. Next slide, please. Next. Okay. Another way we use the Connections curriculum is outside of the schools as well. We developed a class called Earn While You Learn. This class is offered at several of our local community recreation centers. We offer this class in housing development and with several other youth organizations. Of course, along with the relationship skills, kids have an opportunity to understand the impact that relationship skills have on their future and how important having good communication and knowing how to resolve conflict. They finally get an opportunity to see how those skills work not only at home and in relationships, but also in the workplace. And another opportunity here is where we can teach kids the importance of if you're looking for a job, even at McDonald's, it is important when you go to pick up that application, the way you dress is important. So an opportunity to teach them the importance of dressing for success. And we also provide them with some interview tips and also an opportunity for them to look toward the future, and talk about careers. Next slide, please. And in this slide, you see an exercise that we've incorporated into a class where this is a problem-solving activity where these kids will, work together to solve this problem that they have, which is flipping over this tarp, of course. Next slide, please. So as you can see, in the activities, this is an opportunity for kids to get up out of their seats, to participate in doing something fun. They get an opportunity themselves to see who's the leader, what part do I play, the importance of working together, how it's depending on one another, the importance of communication and listening and directing, and they get to learn in a fun way. Next slide, please. This slide, this is a group of kids that we taught during the summer class, and if you'll notice their attention to Bugs and Lola on the screen, kids, this is just a great way that we've incorporated, and what I wanted to say is we've incorporated these things into the curriculum and as part of the class, where with the videos are generally openers to topics on communication and how we relate to other individuals. And this is Bugs and Lola, of course. Next slide, please. And again, we use the Connections, Dating, and Emotions curriculum as the foundation for a class called Advance Your Swagger. And just the title, as you'll notice, of the class, for kids who live in the inner city and kids who are going to recreation centers, they may not be sure what a relationship education class is, but they're very attracted and want to come and find out what it's all about, and that's simply because of the title. Next slide, please. We've also incorporated money habitudes along with teaching the Connections curriculum. We use money habitudes as an icebreaker for the budgeting and financing session of each class. So if anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to answer any of your questions.
Actually, Deborah, there is a question, and I believe maybe Aaron Larson, you might want to chime in on this one, even maybe from another viewpoint of Deborah. Amanda would like to know kind of, I guess, how the Connections curriculum is defined. Is it an abstinence education-based program, a sexual education program, or a relationship development program, or a combination of all those? Who would like to answer that?
I would say we use it as a relationship education from that perspective.
Yeah, because it doesn't address the topic of sex, and so yeah, it would not be considered an abstinent, or it would not be considered a sex education. Although, I mean, there have been some of the people who are using it have reported that while it doesn't directly address sex education, that they've actually found that by teaching healthy relationship skills to the youth and to the teens, that they've actually seen anecdotally that the teens actually are delaying the onset of having sex, and then also that they attribute the decrease to the pregnancy rate in their high school to the class. So it doesn't directly address the topic, but it actually ends up kind of having the same kind of result.
I would agree with that wholeheartedly. Many of the kids, after taking the class, have a different view about their relationships, and they themselves have spoke about, now I think I'll slow down and try to learn more about a person and have a relationship that's more relationally as opposed to them hooking up, I should say.
Yes, and I would like to say that our fearless leader from Dibble, Kay, has typed in here that that she is aware of groups or organizations that are both abstinent-based and are sexual education-based programs are using Connections, Dating, and Emotions. So it seems that it hits a wide range of audiences, and you can add to or take out or whatnot. Another question, is the program funded through a state or federal contract or by a grant?
This particular program is funded by a grant from the Administration for Children and Families.
Okay, thank you. And Rick would like to know, and Aaron, maybe you and Deborah might want to both answer this, how long is the class that you actually teach? I guess it would depend if it's in the high school or out of the high school with the hours, and how many sessions. Can you give us kind of an idea of the logistics of the class, Deborah?
So our basic class is 8 hours in length, and that session, especially when we're in high school, depends on the particular school. Some of them are on 90-minute sessions, and some of them are on 55-minute sessions, so it really depends on the school. But our goal is to get every student through 8 hours of training minimally.
And a lot of that has to do with the federal grant requirements. The actual program itself, the Connections, Dating, and Emotions, actually has a total of 15 lessons. And so, once again, you can mix and match. You can choose which ones. But if you wanted to teach the entire curriculum, then it does have 15 lessons.
Yes. And I would also like to add, I don't know if there's another question about, but several of our teachers where we teach are so impressed with this curriculum that they have gone past our 8 hours and have actually, after we leave, they actually have students complete the lessons that we have not taught. So as you said, Aaron, there are 15 lessons. The teachers are so impressed with that program that they grade the students on all 15 lessons.
That's great. And for those of you that are interested in more specific information about the curriculum, you can also go to our website. And if you look under the Connections, Dating, and Emotions homepage, landing page, you will see a sample lesson that you can look at. You can see some other information about the program that would really give you some insight as well. Okay. We ready to go to the next presenter?
Yep.
Thank you, Deborah.
Yep, thank you very much. And actually, we might have a few more minutes for questions at the end as soon as we get through our other panelists. So if we didn't get to your question right now, then hopefully we'll have some time at the end. So our second panelist is John Lewis, and John Lewis is responsible for leading Futuro Now's collaborative efforts focused on serving communities in need in the Southern California region. He has expertise in conducting outreach to diverse organizations and community members working across multiple fields to accomplish shared goals. He has managed partnerships with 19 communities and faith-based organizations in Southern California and managed extensive technical assistance to sub-award recipients. So I'm excited to hear from John on how they have successfully managed all of these sub-grantees. So thank you for joining us today, John.
Thank you for having me with the Dibble Institute. I definitely appreciate Dibble over the last 9 years that we've been in relationship with him. So as you can see from this slide and from the introduction, Futuro Now is actually not an organization, but actually a collaborative of a number of organizations. The two main organizations that make up Futuro Now is Telecu, which is the East Los Angeles Community Union, which is a large community development corporation based out of East Los Angeles that does work all over Southern California and actually across the country. And then my organization that is Urban Strategies, that's based out of DC, and I manage all of our projects in the Southern California, Greater Los Angeles area. We can move forward. So besides Telecu and Urban Strategies, the other aspect of that makes Futuro Now unique in regards to being a collaborative is that previously on a 5-year Healthy Marriage grant that we called the Family Strengthening Initiative and our current 4-year Fatherhood Project, we actually don't do direct service, but we actually empower local community and faith-based organizations that have kind of been located in the communities, predominantly Latino communities here in Southern California, to actually do the work. And we kind of provide oversight, technical assistance, training in the different curriculums that they use, and just ongoing kind of support to help them be successful in actually implementing the federal grant that's actually funding the Fatherhood Project and previously the Family Strengthening Initiative. And so these are a few of those. So we currently have 5 direct service partners under the Fatherhood Project, and we had 18 under our previous marriage grants. So when we're looking for partners, kind of just to give you a little bit of a snapshot of how the Futuro Now programs work and how we kind of begin to manage and juggle all these different relationships and keep everyone focused, is we really look for trusted partners. We look for individuals who have trust in the community and their leadership we have trust with as the managing partners of the grant. And we utilize SurveyMonkey and SharePoint, and always can give you more details in regards to how we utilize these online websites that help us actually to share files, share data, and actually work together, even though we may be miles and miles apart locally here in Southern California, in regards to being successful in managing different grants. A couple of the other aspects besides the actual technology used to kind of manage these partners, we also utilize what we call monthly advocate meetings, where we all get together, and so all the different partners are in the room together and they're sharing in regards to what successfully is moving forward in their organization, what challenges. And so besides our input as the managing partners, but they actually get input from all the other organizations that are part of the collaborative. So we have quarterly meetings that take place with more training. We do a lot of one-on-one technical assistance just to kind of support each organization. We train all their case managers. We provide them training in domestic violence and child maltreatment besides the curriculums that they use. And then we also do unannounced site visits of classes that are taking place, just to make sure that's our big quality control. So they don't know we're coming, but we show up and sit in the back of the room and kind of get to experience a class from one of these partners. So within the Futuro Now program, our partners have recruited over the last 3.5 years in the Fatherhood Project about 1,000 dads who have completed an intensive intake process that helps determine the needs that are addressed by the Fatherhood Project. And so once these dads kind of come in, take the application, we can move on to the next slide. They take this intake, and so the case manager or the family advocate that we call them comes up with an individual service plan. So they've decided from sitting down, having a conversation with either the family or the father, and kind of looked through the intake and decided what are the biggest needs that this dad has to move forward so that he's a more successful father, he's a more successful individual in the community. And that's when we determine which of the curriculums that are a part of this project this father will take part in. So we can move to the next slide. And so as this slide's coming up, the 24/7 Dad is the curriculum that we use for responsible parenting, Money Smarts for financial education, and we have a job readiness curriculum that we use to support a dad if those are areas. And so to highlight kind of on this webinar, we're going to highlight what we use for the relationship aspect, which is Love Notes, which is, there's actually, I believe, 14 lessons within Love Notes, and we have all the dads at least take at least 8 lessons and 8 hours of that curriculum. And a big reason that we've chosen Love Notes from the Dibble Institute for not only this fatherhood grant, but our previous one, where we had about 6,900 young adults complete 8 hours of the Love Notes curriculum, and then currently about 634 fathers have completed the 8 hours. And as we look at the next slide, our demographic is 60 to 70% Hispanic males within this fatherhood grant, and 60-70% family members, both singles, married individuals, youth from our previous grant. And one of the big reasons that our facilitators that have been trained in Love Notes and implemented it in the community have really appreciated Love Notes is because it really allows for a cultural adaptation by that facilitator as they bring it to the community that they're serving. So a lot of our dads don't make more than $12,000 a year. They live in different urban areas of Southern California. They may have spent 15 to 20 years in jail. They may have coming out of a rehab center. All these different things have created a lot of struggles, but as we talk about relationships and utilizing Love Notes, it's been very effective in regards to the facilitator being able to take their own personal stories and kind of share them within the context of the curriculum of Love Notes. The other aspect great about Love Notes, and we can go to the next slide too as I talk about this, is the use of music and the use of ongoing different activities that gets guys out of their seats, that's interacting, whether it's with, those, I personally love large Post-it notes, even though my boss always reminds me that they do cost $1 each, but it's a great way to kind of brainstorm and get guys out of their seats and begin to interact with the topic at hand. And the other aspect of using culturally relevant music that goes along with the topic, I think it's a huge advantage, because now whenever they hear that song by whatever artist you used in the class, is going to trigger back to what they're learning there within the class. So here is a great video about a success story of a single young lady that was a part of our initial family strengthening initiative. Her name's Jessica.
Aaron, you might let me know that you have the screen, please.
Yep. It should be.
If somebody would ask me, what is a healthy relationship, I wouldn't have an answer. Some of the past relationships that I've had were more for attraction reasons, like, you're cute, let's hook up, and then, kind of led on from there, and it wasn't very meaningful. And then when I found somebody that I thought that I got along with, it was because they, I thought they were cool, or I thought they were, funny, and I would see something in them that wasn't there. I would see somebody for who they could be as opposed to who they were, and it got me in a lot of trouble. I took the Love Notes class. I didn't know what to really expect, but I really didn't think that an 8-hour class was going to teach me so much. I didn't think that it was going to be so effective. I mean, having spent so many years in relationships, I thought that, I would already know how to handle them and what to do, but I learned a lot from Love Notes, and I learned a lot of great tools to use, and I would never have expected for it to have such an impact. Some tools that I learned in Love Notes were communication. That really stood out to me. You have to have effective communication, and you can't have a lot of blaming questions or blaming sentences. Another tool that stood out in the Love Notes class was the different types of attractions, and I learned that you can't just be in a relationship with somebody that you're sexually attracted to. You have to be in a relationship for the right reasons, because you get along, because you're a good friend, because they make you a better person. In the past, my relationship with my children wasn't necessarily a bad relationship, but I maybe didn't communicate well with them. I would get angry easily. I might have yelled a little bit too much. And since I've taken the Love Notes class, I have learned that yelling doesn't help at all. I don't blame them for everything. I take things a little bit lighter. I learned that they're just children. They make mistakes. I see it helping my children in the future, because they can see what a healthy relationship is as opposed to what I have learned. They can see that people can be happy together, and that they don't have to grow up arguing and having to go through the mistakes that I've made. The class has changed how I look at people and strengthen my relationships. I get along with my friends better. I don't have as many arguments with my girlfriends, and I don't have as many arguments with my parents, and it's just easier. It's not stressful. It's not work. Now, when I'm looking for relationships, I look for the qualities that a person is. I look at them as who they are, what they're doing now. You know, are they in school? Do they have a job? Not could they have a job? Do they have a job? You know, and it's not like it's just for money. It's because it shows the type of person that they are, and that they can be responsible and reliable, and then they will be that towards me.
Okay, just to point out a couple of the things that Jessica talks about in there is multiple reasons of why we have chosen Love Notes, is because it also just is highly effective in all relationships of helping people understand how to communicate better with bosses, your parents, your children, as she shared there. And I think sometimes we just focus that relationships are all about dating relationships, but I think Love Notes, when people enter into the class, they may be coming and thinking it's going to help them in their dating relationship, but it actually helps them in all of their different relationships. And I think that video kind of nicely shares that. Quickly, the last part of our for Thorough Now programs is after they've gone through parenting classes, relationship classes with Love Notes, financial management, and even job preparedness classes, we give them opportunities kind of as a reward in regards to going through different vocational certifications or job readiness components. And those are also some other partners that are locally here in Southern California that do a great job of that, and we connect the dads from the 5 different sites to these things. And the last component of the project is what we call job clubs, where we just kind of give anyone who's really interested in finding a job just a lot more of accountability and help and support in looking for a job. And that's the last slide. Before we jump into any questions, that's kind of a snapshot of Futuro Now, but a little bit more of a highlight of how we utilize Love Notes within our programs.
Great. Thank you so much, John. We do have a couple questions here, if you don't mind taking a few minutes to answer them. David's asking something specific with your program. If the fathers are not mandated to attend the relationship class, how do you get them to attend it initially?
Well, a couple reasons, a couple ways. Some of them are in recovery homes where there's nothing much better to do but go to classes, so that's the easiest way to get them to go to a relationship class. But usually also, if they've started off with a 24/7 dad class and they've really had a great experience of going through that, they've usually built a camaraderie with what we call the family advocate or their case manager. And usually if that family advocate really sees that this would be a great kind of addition to helping them in their relationship, it's kind of a no-brainer for them to kind of say, yeah, I'll jump into that. Also, if they want to have an opportunity for a vocational job or one of those vocational trainings kind of at the end, we really want them to see that they actually take Love Notes also and just not 24/7 dad.
Great. Okay.
And actually, Kathy, real quick, something else that another grantee does that's kind of interesting in terms of recruiting, and that is they actually partner with their local child support enforcement agency as well as with the local judges, because sometimes when a dad does get behind on their child support payments, and if they're not paying, and a lot of times it's just because they're unemployed, but to get their attention, the judges will actually send them to jail for 30 to 60 days. And so what another grantee has done is they've actually gone to the child support, gone to the judges and said, hey, we've got this program where we can do job training, we can do relationship skills, we can do parenting skills, and if they come to our program, will you kind of skip the whole prison thing? And so the judges and child support have said, yeah, absolutely. If they go to your program, then then they don't need to go to jail for the next 30 to 60 days. And so and usually what the grantee reported is that for the first 2 or 3 sessions, the dads aren't so excited to be there because it is mandated, but by about the 3rd session, then they really catch the vision of the whole thing and they're super excited, and it's a much better alternative than jail.
Great. Thank you, Aaron. John, and then another question about maybe a little bit of the demographics. How many of those 600 dads who go through the program, how many, I guess, are younger dads, or what age groups do you have, and what is your experience with this particular group of dads and how they react to this material?
Yeah, so I would say I think about 50% of our dads fall in the range of 25 to 35, with about 20% between 18 and 25, and then the others would be between 35 and 50, which is a smaller percentage. Love Notes is I think from the target is a young adult, someone that's kind of probably in their mid to upper 20s, and even some that are in the 30s. And I think a lot of that has to do with the music that kind of is, and videos and all those things. I think they've targeted at these individuals that make it more susceptible for that age group. But we've had individuals that are even up to 45, and it really comes down to that facilitator. What video are you going to pick, or how are you going to make it relevant to the individuals that are in your class? And I think that's a great aspect of Love Notes is for that facilitator, as they get to know the class, they can kind of pinpoint, how am I going to make this relevant for them? So even if it's kind of targeted at that younger adult, it's been very effective for us on all the cases. So if we have a group of dads that are from 18 to 35 or 40, we don't have to really think about, let's split them up and give the younger ones this curriculum and the older ones that. But they're able to kind of, Love Notes has been able to, for us, hit the mark on all of them.
Oh, great. Thank you. And also, just to remind you again, if you go to our website under our programs and you go to Love Notes, you will hit a landing page that will have a sample lesson about Love Notes and lots of other information about Love Notes. And Aaron's going to share something that we have new on our website, too, later on in the program about some case studies. So are we ready to move on to Aaron Stone?
Yep. And so our last panelist is Erin Stone, and she is the Executive Director of the Relationship Skills Center in Sacramento, California. She is an experienced nonprofit manager with over 30 years of experience in team building, community outreach, youth training, and volunteer recruitment. At the Relationship Skills Center, they have helped thousands of youth and young adults learn healthy relationship skills. So thank you for joining us today, Erin.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. And even though we've done a couple of practices, I always learn something from the other panelists. So thank you to Deborah and John as well. It was awesome. So we are, as Aaron mentioned, a local nonprofit here in the greater Sacramento area, the Relationship Skills Center. And we can move on to the next slide. We have a mission to build a better community by strengthening people's relationship skills. And really, we certainly want to help everyone who's in our classes improve their skills, but the vision is also for the children in those families to then grow up in a healthy family where they are being modeled healthy relationship skills so that they don't have to unlearn bad habits. So that's how we help. We provide access to affordable, effective relationship skills training. Our classes are free. And this is my gang, and what motivates me every day to come to work and to be in the classroom and to keep working at it is what do I want for my kids, and hopefully that we can share that with as many people in the community as possible. Next slide, please. So we have a variety of programs here at the Relationship Skills Center. We do a summer youth program, and in 2014 we were really fortunate to use Relationship Smarts, also from Dibble and by the same author as the author of Love Notes, and it was a great success. And then that is a non-federal grant-funded program that we run here in Sacramento. And then through our federal grant, we run the Flourishing Families program. We teach both in English and Spanish. We are over here in California, and most of our participants are parents, so you don't have to be a parent to participate. We teach to both singles and couples, and for our singles classes, this is where we are using Love Notes, and we really couldn't be happier. So if we move to the next slide. To reach singles with our Love Notes program, we do our program, we're trying to get as much of the Love Notes curriculum as possible done in a 15-hour class. We teach throughout Sacramento, mostly at places like family resource centers, church basements, in our own offices, but throughout the community. Our class sizes for singles are between 10 and 30 participants. And I did put some statistics up here on this slide. I'm sure you can all read, so I won't quote them all, but I did want to share that, about almost 90% of our participants are female. 70% come from household incomes of less than $20,000 a year, and 70% of them are holding less than a high school diploma. So, and you can also take a peek there, in that under 34 range, that's the bulk of our participants as well. So that's who we are targeting and reaching, and our only criteria is that they be 17 years of age. One of the things that we really like about the Love Notes program is how interactive it is. And John mentioned this as well. Participants have the opportunity to get up, to break into small groups, to do sculpture or draw pictures or listen to video. And that's been very important. And those are the areas of content that we definitely focus on in class. I suspect that you could make 40 hours of curriculum out of all the information that is in the Love Notes book. We try to pick and emphasize a few key areas and really dig as deep as we can, and try not to speed through too many sections. So our favorite sections in Love Notes are the 3-6-9 rule, talking about family patterns, healthy versus unhealthy relationships, communication skills, of course, and probably my favorite, and that's how dating affects your kids and how to keep your kids safe during those times when you do decide to start dating. So I would say, as a tip, to pick the sections that are most appropriate for your clientele and to focus on those, and definitely to keep the focus on the activities and to limit that lecture time, really focus on the hands-on parts. We found that that's where the best learning is taking place. Certainly, one of the questions earlier was, if they're not mandated, how do you get them there and keep them there? None of our participants are mandated to come to the program, so it is a challenge. We do recruitment with our own staff. Regularly, they are recruiting at WIC offices, DHA offices, food banks, other nonprofit organizations that are serving families in the community. We just pulled some numbers, and we had referrals from over 60 different community organizations in this last reporting period. So, staying connected with those community organizations, making sure they know what we're doing, if there are changes to the program, and then following up with them about what happens with their referrals, really important. So recruitment is key. We also know that the incentives that we offer help get people there and to stay there. So we are offering on-site play care. So while mom or dad are in class, there's on-site play care, and we do enrichment activities there through another grant. We provide a meal, so whether they're coming in the evening or on a Saturday, meals and snacks for everyone who's there, so they don't have to worry about that piece of it. Don't go home and have dinner first, just come to class. We'll have all that ready for you. And then upon graduation, and for us, participants graduate when they've completed the entire 15-hour program, which is about 20 hours of on-site time by the time you count all the meal time and checking kids in and out of play care. But we do offer a $50 gift card upon completion to Walmart, Target, or towards their utility bill. And then the other aspect that we try really hard to make sure that they feel not only welcomed to our program, but that we're a great connector and a catalyst for reaching out to other community resources. So We do some intake information upon enrollment, and if we know that they need food or housing or clothing or respite for special needs family members, that we try and make those connections for them so that we're helping them in a variety of ways to make the class possible and to make their life a little bit easier so that they can focus on building and strengthening their family. Next slide. I talked a little bit about it being somewhat of a challenge because folks are taking our class, participants are, in either 6 weeknight sessions or 3 Saturdays in order to get all of that curriculum in. So certainly the incentives that I mentioned are very helpful. We also do a lot of phone calling in between classes, sending emails, text messages, reminding them of class, postcards. It does take some time to continue to connect with participants as they're going through the class. And I think it's really helpful to understand that many of our participants have challenges that even when they want to come to class, you know, cars break and kids get sick and someone gets called to work or a variety of other things. And just being willing to encourage participants to stay with it, to be flexible about, you know, letting them come back in to finish, you know, at a different class or the next month. It does take some effort and some tracking, but for those who make it through the program, we have some really wonderful outcomes. 87% of our graduates out of the Love Notes classes are reporting less yelling and arguing. 91% of them reported an increase in knowledge of warning signs of a dangerous relationship. So this is that key point of, you know, how do we keep kids safe? So that's really important to me. Next slide. I think being willing to be flexible about that. And one of the other things that we have loved about Love Notes and about working with Dibble is how easy they are to work with, how quickly we get materials. We use another program for our couples program, and that is not always the case. We have a challenge getting materials and responses to emails and phone calls, and that makes it a more difficult process, and we would rather be focusing our time on participants. So certainly working with Dibble, that's really easy. The materials are here, they're on time, they're easy to understand, and they really work for such a wide range of our participants because I think of those hands-on activities when many of our participants don't have high reading levels or high education levels. Next slide. So I always like to share a little story, and this is one of my favorites because it happened to me while I was out recruiting and speaking to a group about our program and trying to get some folks to sign up and come over and give our class a try. And this young woman happened to be in the audience where I was speaking, and she said, oh my gosh, I learned so much from this class, especially about respecting myself and not just jumping in. She said, one day, not long after completing the Love Notes class, I was standing at a bus stop and a guy was driving by, and he drove by a couple times just asking me for my phone number and was being very persistent. And before I took the Love Notes class, I probably would have given the guy at the bus stop my number. But now I realize he was really only interested in one thing because he never even asked me for my name or anything else about me. And I'm so glad I took that class and I recognized that before I shared any information with him. So that made me feel great, and we had multiple people sign up right away. So that's always a nice success story. So on the last slide is contact information for the Skills Center and my information. And we've really been happy with Love Notes and how easy it is to work with Dibble, and what a great opportunity it is for our participants at all levels to be able to grasp the material that's being shared.
All right, thank you so much, Erin. Definitely is an exciting program that you have there, and I will say if I was in the audience, I would definitely sign up. I can't imagine anyone not signing up with you being a presenter there. I do have a couple questions for you, though, if you don't mind. And one of these is kind of going back to the brief mention that you made about the summer programming with youth using Relationship Smarts Plus. Can you just in a nutshell, tell us what venues you actually that program takes place in, and a little bit about that?
Sure, absolutely. We did it as a pilot this last summer using the Relationship Smart Plus curriculum. And because it was a pilot, we didn't necessarily want to have to do all of the recruiting ourselves. So we actually went into 6 different community organizations that were already doing summer activities and programs here in Sacramento. So, for instance, La Familia, the Sacramento Food Bank, a high school program catering towards foster youth. We did one at a library out in the Colonial Heights area. We did one at a mental health clinic for the kids of families who are participating in that low-cost mental health clinic. So a variety of different programs, really. We served around 100 kids over the summer, and the programs each really had a different feel. So some that were at the school settings, we would come in every day for 3 hours and do activities. For some, we were there an hour each week. And again, we did it in about 15, 16 hours of total curriculum for the summer, and we did that with some non-federal funding grant money. So we are hopeful that what we learned from this last year was very well received in the community by the other community organizations, that we'll be able to put together the funding to do that again in the summer of 2015. The other really nice thing about using that same curriculum by the same author, and it's set up in a very similar way, very hands-on, very interactive, and also for our instructors, very easy to move back and forth between the Love Notes and the Relationship Smarts Plus curriculum because of the way it's framed and set up, and most of the same kinds of vocabulary and messaging that was taking place. So for us, especially in a pilot program, that was nice to not have to retrain facilitators for that.
Exactly. And maybe you mentioned this and I missed it, but how exactly do you fund that youth program? You said it was your pilot program?
Yeah, there's a lot of shaking hands and kissing babies.
There you go.
I don't know exactly how else to put that, but it was some private funding. We have a local company here who's in construction that gave us a little bit of money. We were recognized as the Bids for Kids recipient from the Sacramento Rotary organization, which really helped fund that, and then some private donations as well for folks who just believe in what we're doing and wanted to see that happen this summer and see what we could learn. So I'll be writing a bunch of grants and kissing babies and shaking hands and eating a free chicken dinner again to see if we can make that happen again this summer of 2015.
There you go. And I do have a couple questions that I'd like to open up maybe to all the panelists. And we're getting back to, and I think this is really a valid question for someone who is just starting a program. Can you tell, David's really having an issue getting people to the very first class they start. And I hear some of the incentives, but can someone kind of simply walk us through maybe thinking back to the very first class you had, and how did you get people there specifically? Can one of you answer that? John or Aaron or Deborah? Who would like to go?
Could we get a little more information about what his audience is? Is it teens? Is it singles?
David, would you like to write something about that in the question box for me?
Well, David's writing. There's something that we, this is Erin, that we're going to try starting in February next month. We just did a pretty complete survey to about 10,000 folks who were on our e-blast list, and asking them how long they would dedicate to, such a program, if they were eligible or if they wanted to come. And we noticed that making that long-term commitment for us was difficult for those who we surveyed. we're going to try a little teaser program. We don't know exactly what we're going to call it yet, but come on in for an hour. We'll have snacks. We'll have on-site play care, probably show some little video, and then do a small piece of curriculum to give them a taste of what it's like, and then have the opportunity to sign folks up on site. And it will be open not only to people who are new, who might want to come in and give it a shot, but we'll be inviting some of our graduates to come back and mix and mingle with the crowd that's there as well, to talk about you know, what they liked and what were the hard and difficult parts of the, you know, of making that commitment, and just try and share that. So more to come. Film at 11, or we'll let you know if it works, but we are going to give that a shot here in the next month.
Well, then, and I also heard that, you know, you kind of have your incentives and you have your programming, and then you do a lot of networking with agencies that can reach the audience that needs to be there. And it's the relationship between you and the organizations that maybe even have more direct contact with participants that might go there. Is that kind of how it works?
Yes, that's definitely true. Folks who might be, you know, who are those case managers, those family advocates, you know, that are maybe, you know, doing home visits or that kind of thing. Hey, give this a shot. You know, we write a lot of letters verifying that people were there and on site, you know, mandated or not, for them to share back with family advocates or caseworkers or child support, or, you know, whoever that initial referral was. We definitely are staying in touch with those community organizations.
Okay.
And actually, Kathy, real quick, so David got back in terms of the specific audience that he was interested in, and it's low-income fathers in urban areas. And so while Deborah's thinking about that, I'll jump in real quick. I've spoken with quite a few grantees, and over the past 18 years, a whole bunch of people who have been doing relationship education with these populations. And so one of the most successful has been one of the people who realized that when it comes to people who cut hair, so for females, it's in the beauty salons, a lot of times they're talking about relationships. They have an established relationship with that person, and so if they recommend that she should attend this relationship education program, they're much more likely to do so. As far as these low-income fathers in urban areas, they obviously gather around the barbershop. They go to the barber. If what you do is you actually invite the barbers in your area to come to your relationship education programs, you get them excited about the whole concept, then they go back and they become a recruiting stream for you. But everyone has found when it comes to recruiting low-income individuals, it's very difficult. You need to help them overcome the barriers that they're facing, both in terms of transportation, childcare, just flat-out time. So making sure that you are offering the classes when it's convenient for them. But anyways, I'll be quiet and turn it over to Deborah in case you had some other ideas.
Okay, I think you're spot on there. And I would also say we have a recruiter. You know, you can have brochures and billboards and those types of things in the community, but we actually have a recruiter who is what she calls boots on the ground. She is in the community where people are standing out, you know, kind of hanging out. She'll go up and talk to them and tell them about the classes that we offer here at First Things First, give them a little information. And generally, if it's a person that they are familiar with and that they know, they tend to trust that person. And that tends to bring people in. And then once one or two of them do, or a few of them attend, they will go back and recruit other people. I would say that that's very key.
Well, and I would guess too, Deborah, that you don't necessarily expect to have a full house the first time. So you kind of have to just keep plodding along. And like you say, then those people get something out of it. So they invite other people. So just to stay the course, I guess they say.
Yes.
I do have another question, and I'm not sure who would be the one to answer this. Maybe Aaron Larson. David would like to know, and I'm going to read this specifically the way he wrote it.
Yeah, I read those, and so I can actually address both of those. So a different David had a couple of questions. One was on the outcomes in terms of some of the research and evaluation that's been done on our programs. And we only have 1 minute, and so what I'd recommend is for anyone who's interested in that, go to our website, and then when you look up the program, one of the links is we actually have all the links to the journal articles, etc., that talk about the research and evaluation on the programs. And then the other question that David had was this prohibition that he heard about in terms of that you can't charge anybody. So with the current federal Healthy Marriage Grant, yes, there is a prohibition in the grant that prohibits you from charging anyone who is receiving grant-related services. That's actually something that the current administration decided on. In the first grant, it was actually allowed. So it's not something that legislatively is prohibited, and it will be interesting to see, based on the feedback that they've gotten from the former grantees and the current grantees, it will be interesting to see in March which direction that they choose to go with that. But really, that's just that was just a grant prohibition. And so you can't use grant dollars if you're going to charge people, but if you're an organization, you can have kind of a separate door that people can go through if they have insurance, because David specifically asked about the insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So if they go through the other door, but if they come through your grant door, then no, right now it's prohibited. So.
Great. Thank you so much for answering those, Aaron. And I appreciate all of the panelists. I can't say how much even I personally got from your presentations, and I'm sure that everyone else did. If I did not get to your questions, we will be contacting you either by email or by phone to answer them, and feel free to contact Aaron or I. But Aaron, why don't you share the link to the case studies?
Yeah, so I actually just sent out a link to everyone in the chat box, and what that link is, what we've done is we've actually talked with each of our panelists, and we've gotten kind of general information about their approach, and we've put together case studies that have a few more details. And so if you click on that link that's in the chat box, it will actually take you to those case studies. And then also, probably in one of our follow-up emails, we'll include that as well, and it's also on our website. And so, just also real quick, just like it says on the screen, if you do enter the webinar code, so use the code webinar at checkout, you'll get 10% off. We also have a brief survey at the end. We read every single comment. We'd love for you to fill it out. And if you have any other additional questions, you can ask Kathy or I. And probably turn it over to you, Kathy, as far as the February webinar.
Okay, well, I'm really excited about the February webinar. You know, it's Dibble's month with the heart, February is. So we always tend to have a very exciting webinar in February as well. And Elsbeth Martindale, the author of Things to Know Before You Say Go, is actually going to be our panelist that next month. And the webinar is going to be called 10 Faulty Relationship Beliefs That Doom Romance. And I think all of us will be excited to hear Elsbeth for sure. So thank you so much. You all have a great evening, and we look forward to seeing you again in February for our next webinar.